Okay, there's two dates that I want to talk about right away. October 10th is World Mental Health Day. October 11th is National Coming Out Day. These two dates are pretty important to me, and they mean a lot, have meant a lot, do mean a lot. And that's something that we're going to talk about today is my coming out story.
You're listening to the Feed the Soul podcast. We're talking about tackling tough stuff, chasing dreams, and figuring out who we really are. Each episode ends with a word of advice or encouragement, a nugget of inspiration to empower you to dream big and take that leap of faith into the wild adventure of life.
So I knew early on that I had an interest or was questioning my sexuality, and questioning like who I was attracted to. So stereotypically, back in the 90s, boys weren't supposed to play with Barbies or with dolls. But coincidentally, I did. I did want to. I think maybe in part because most of my toys were Hot Wheels. I had a bunch of Hot Wheel cars. I had Hot Wheel tracks and Hot Wheel mats. And playing with Barbies kind of brought another realm of my world to life, if you will. I didn't let my sisters play with my Hot Wheels as much as they let me play with their Barbies. And so that was a way for us to play together with our toys without them having to play with my Hot Wheel cars. We got to play together with the Barbies. And, you know, Barbies bring a sense of people to the Hot Wheel mat, if you will. Instead of having all these characters in my head, when there's a school or there's a church or there's the firehouse on the mat, I got to actually have Barbies as well, which again added that next level of imagination. I think because I had so many sisters growing up, I hung out with a lot of girls growing up for a while. And although even through high school and into college, that made me like a woman's man, playa, good with the ladies, I also got questioned a lot. It was interesting because I got dating questions. People would ask me about their relationships with their girlfriends, and I had never had a relationship before. So I don't know where those questions came from or about or why, but I did get those questions with being, hanging out with girls a lot, being called gay because of that, but also the ladies' man because of that, but not dating any of them. It did question. So I kind of hung out with guys, right? Guys hanging out with each other all the time. But then that was also something that made people question. You hang out with a lot of guys. It's like, well, what is that balance? Side salad. What's the balance there that makes one neither this nor that? Just something to think about. But there's other things, I suppose, that made people question my sexuality. The way I carried myself, again, how I dressed, how I crossed my legs, how I held my hand or arms, how I stood, how I talked. There are so many elements that made, I guess, people question if I was gay or not. Amongst being called an Oreo, that was another element of how I presented myself, white on the inside, black on the outside. Like I said, I didn't really fit a lot of the stereotypes in which the boys who looked like me, the stereotypes that they presented, I did not fall into or model. 7th and 8th grade is when I got called gay a lot. Like I said, didn't wear the baggy clothes so much or the heavy shirts. I didn't talk like the other guys. Like 7th and 8th grade, they were already talking about sex and being with some of these girls that they were with. And again, couldn't relate. So something that had to have been off. And then I didn't have the same interest. I actually really enjoyed band. I really enjoyed playing soccer. Um, I didn't get in trouble a lot. I was also considered a brown noser, a little teacher's pet, if you will. And I mean, in my reality, like that was the easiest way to get through and to get by. My mom worked across the street. Right. So seventh and eighth grade was in one building. It was considered our junior high. And then across the street was the high school. And we would, students from either high school or junior high would flip flop at times throughout the day for various classes or events. And so if I was to get in trouble, my mom would know I was in trouble before I knew I was in trouble. So I needed to be on the teacher's side. And if that meant being a brown noser or a teacher's pet, I had to do it. But it was in middle school that I really started to question who I liked. I remember there being two out boys. I put out in question marks because, again, in the 90s, early 2000s, out wasn't a term that we were using. We just knew that they were a little different. Or we did know gay was a term, but that was something that you did not say unless you were really talking about somebody. That was an aha moment there. I remember I wrote a note to one of the boys who we knew were gay. I remember folding it. It's a long note, folding it, and back at that time we had the fun folds, passing it in class or between classes, just the fun of it. But I remember I wrote a letter and I asked him, or basically asking, how did he know? How did he know that he was gay? How did he know that he liked boys? I never gave it to him because I had this fear that if I did give this letter to him, then I would be like proclaiming that I too am gay. So I held on to it. Never gave it to him. Fast forward, high school. At this time, more folks were out or exploring, and I was still questioning. I found this girl attractive, but I also found this guy attractive. I didn't know what was going on, and I thought at that time, like, you had to be one or the other. You liked the same sex or you liked the opposite sex. There wasn't really this middle ground or this gray area to it. And I guess it was supposed to be like clear as day, like you knew. But again, that was not something that I dabbled with, explored, because, as you know or don't know, Sunday school, Sunday church, again, at that time, everybody was going to church. Everyone had some type of religion, and being gay was not inclusive. It was not encouraged within religion. So there's just a lot to process overall. At some point, and I'm pretty sure it's before college, that I did do some research on sexuality. LGBTQ plus and that plus sign, I guess the plus sign wasn't really there. I learned more about the plus sign, I think, when I did this research. But in that plus sign is pansexual. And you may or may not have heard this term before, so I just want to read a definition to you. Pansexual is defined as an attraction to people of any gender or to people regardless of their gender. With the prefix pan coming from the Greek prefix for all. Pansexuality isn't a more evolved or politically correct form of bisexuality, but because I had never heard of pansexual before, no one has used it, no one has mentioned that they were, it wasn't something that I identified with. It wasn't something that I understood. So I just coined or called myself bisexual. Again, I saw both genders attractive, and being with bisexuality or pansexuality, like all genders, that also means trans community as well. Asexuality, there's so many, right? There's a big plus sign there. But in the early 2000s, again, transsexuality wasn't as proud as it is now, or non-binary even. So I just went with bisexuality. Liked both. Fast forward from college or from high school into college, I did start to explore. I started to experiment a little bit more. I continued to be questioned and confuse people at the same time. It was, looking back, it does make me laugh. A lot of times it happened at the bars. You know, people had some liquor courage and they'd ask if I was gay, if I like, who did I like, what was going on? And to not be out, I always still said, no, I like girls. And I ran with that. At 26, I started my first intimate relationship. They came out to their parents first. I had no intention to, I suppose, right away. But because he did, I thought I'd do the same. And this is how that went. At 26, I'm working full time in a career, and I happened to go home during a spring break. My mom was the only one at home while I was there hanging out, and she says, let's go for a walk. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now, the thing is, my mom has asked me in the past if I like boys. She's also shared, whether we're in a car by ourselves together or we do take a walk, you know, you can share with me anything you want. And I've always had this gut feeling that she knew. But then I was like, well, maybe what if it's not that? So I had never mentioned it. But this time when she said, let's go for a walk, I said to myself, she knows. And she's asking me to share. We go to a nearby park and we're walking, we have small talk, we have moments of silence. And in those moments of silence, I go, Savion, open your mouth. Just tell her. But also in the back of my head are those stories of people being disowned by their family. They're the stories of people being kicked out, being abandoned, being shunned, or just being told that they're going to hell for being gay. Coming from a religious background, even though I had so much love from my church, I had so much support just in being who I was from my church and my church family. I don't know why that was something that I feared. Well, we got through the walk. I still never told her until we got home. We went our separate ways into different rooms, and I said, Savion, just do it. So I walk into her room. I stand in the doorway. And I don't know if it's because I needed to run, just in case. I don't know. But I just stood in the doorway, kind of like behind her. I used to say, hey, Mom, I gotta tell you something. So I'm seeing this guy. He's really kind. He's really sweet. This is his name. This is, how long we've been talking, etc. And I just wanted you to know. I just left it there. And she said, thank you for letting me know. I always knew. I've just been waiting for you to basically accept it, to come into your own. And honestly, there is a little resentment to that. I had always had this belief that it was going to be much worse, and it wasn't. And it was welcomed. And she said that, whoever you're dating or love, I hope they treat you kind. Know that I always love you. I will love them because Savion, I look at the heart. And I was like, we have always looked at people's hearts and who they are as a person. So she says, you know, you got to tell your dad, right? I was like, well, of course I have to tell him. He was at work, so I had to wait till he got home. But after I left her room, I went back to the guest bedroom and I cried. I laid in bed and I cried and I basically cried myself to sleep for a little nap. I don't know if I was just like that overwhelmed that I just needed a break or what. I'm sitting on the couch later on watching TV. Dad comes home. He starts to make a sandwich. And I'm like, hey, Dad, I just got to tell you something. Seeing this guy, same story. And he goes, okay. And I said, wait, is that it? Okay. He goes, well, what do you want me to say? And I was like, I don't know. There's just always supposed to be more. He goes, but I don't know why you haven't told us. Again, that was confusing. It was confusing with the stories I've received, the narratives that I've had, that I just went, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. And then after that, it was like, okay, well, now what? That's over. I did it. Now what? I've admitted to my parents. I've admitted to family. I've admitted to friends that I'm gay. But what was shocking is that identifying and saying I was gay didn't feel right to me. I just didn't feel like that was it. Fast forward to 2019. This is 3 years into this relationship. Same guy. We moved to Milwaukee, the big city. And now we have spent a lot of time in Chicago, and I understand Chicago is much bigger. But when you come from a place of 10,000 people after 10 years, Milwaukee's big. Milwaukee offers a lot. It opened the door to learning more about the LGBTQ plus community. It opened my eyes and simply just introduced me to real life people in this community and in this category. So with that, I got to questioning myself again. I've been in this recent season of alone time, in the recent season of reflecting and learning more about myself. And I've re-identified, if you will. I've more so given myself permission to go outside of this box, this black and white box of gay or straight. I think being in Milwaukee has given me permission to learn more. I mean, we're in a season right now, and our culture has opened the rainbow, if you will, to more. Life isn't so black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and I'm learning that more and more and every day. So simply put, I am pansexual. I like people. I like good energy. I like good hygiene. I like people who take care of themselves. I love a beautiful smile and kind eyes. I love similarities, of course. But being pansexual to me, you know, it doesn't limit you or cut people off because of their gender. There is no one gender. You're a person. And so to me, that there's other important things to enjoy, like fall in love with, to consider before just gender. So I guess I'll move into the dessert. That's me. Thank you for listening. So I say all of that to say live and let live in a way. It's really hard. Well, it was hard, as you get older and you don't come out or announce, which is kind of still weird to me. Like everyone should be coming out, right? Because the spectrum is so wide, or should we even be coming out anymore? Should we just be like, I am what I am. Life is what it is. You find out if someone likes you or they don't like you. It's kind of confusing. It's a lot. And I think because there are so many different avenues and sexualities that maybe we shouldn't, force people to come out anymore. Although it is really important to folks as well. The final sip is to explore, love who you love, and I suppose be honest with yourself. It creates and opens up a space of authenticity. It opens a space of community. And I think ultimately, when you allow yourself to love the people that you want to love, you love yourself a little bit more as well. That's what I learned about myself. So to remember, to the world, you may be one person. To one person, you may be the world. Thank you for listening, and take care of your neighbor. I'll catch you in the next episode of the Feed the Soul podcast.